Yeah, people. Oh, hang on. All right. Okay, there we go. Just realized I had the audio input coming from not the mic I intended. So there we go. That should do it. Oh, good. Hope everyone is having a better week than me. We'll go with that. Good to see folks already here. Jack, Kara, Cappuccino, Super Desi, Pirates, Gozer, Carolyn, of course, MC, Homebody, Jay, Transformative, doesn't quite roll off the tongue, 255 AT. Thank you, everybody. Do I like bubble tea? Occasionally, if it's like, I won't go out of my way to get bubble tea, but I will if it's available somewhere that I'm already at for some reason. Like there's a Vietnamese pho restaurant in Montpelier that I like, and like they have bubble tea, so I'll get that there. How are you this week? I found out my favorite podcaster of 7 years is a sex pest, so I could be better. I am very sorry that that was something that happened. Whenever somebody you have been following or even creatively look up to turns out to be awful, it sucks. It really sucks. How am I? I'm still here. And when there is a very vocal contingent of people expressing their desire for you to not be here, sometimes simply being present and visible is that's a start. Who that hot? That is very hot. I agree. Pho is great. What do I think is the best era of DC Comics? I would say, for my taste, the 80s were pretty good. It wouldn't really be until we got into the 90s that some stuff that had started in the 80s would start going overboard. And the 70s and the lead up to it was pretty solid. But I feel like if I'm gonna give you a decade, 80s was pretty solid for DC overall. Do I like the song Bring Me to Life by Evanescence? Of course I do. I'm assuming you are pulling that reference from my Twitter because on the Vera Wild Twitter, I retweeted a thing that says, hint at your age by saying the first concert you went to. I said Evanescence, which is a mild cheat because I'd been to some concerts before that, but they were concerts that I was like kind of dragged to one way or another. The first one that I was like, I want to go to that was Evanescence, so that's what I went with. If I could offer my 2 cents about the James Gunn DC universe, I'm cautiously optimistic, as am I, but favorite DC artist? I'm really bad at remembering artist names. Kurt Swan was good. Freaking heck. There's a really great one whose name I've now lost. There were a lot of good ones whose names I can't recall. A lot of the artists that stuck with me were ones that were drawing in Image and Marvel in the 90s because that's when I was paying more attention. I cannot promise I will be great at keeping up with the chat tonight. I will do the best that I can. Keep in mind, the one thing that will guarantee that I get to your question is to do it in the form of a super chat, which will also get you a little heart of appreciation from me. Here's some news released today that would have been disappointing, even if the person in question wasn't a total prick. Now there's going to be a Fawlty Towers reboot. Ew, why? Like, set aside issues with John Cleese. Why? Why? Why would... What? I don't understand. Like, I do not understand at all why anyone would think somebody wants that. That's the kind of thing that would have, if it gets decent ratings at all, it's for episode 1, where everybody tunes in to discover if it's either exactly like the original, in which case they don't need it, or it's not enough like the original, in which case they don't want it. And then everybody drops off after that. That would be my expectation with a project like that. Every day above ground is a good day. It is, although I have this... I have this notion in my head for a character, and I have no like setting or story to go with this, but a character that basically wakes up every morning and like upon waking up just realizes they're still alive and goes, ah, damn it, and then just goes about their day. And I know that's kind of morbid, but I just kind of have it in my mind, this idea that someone's perspective is like, I'll die when I'm meant to. Like, they're not gonna unalive themselves or anything like that. They're just gonna go about and try and have the best life that they can for however long it lasts, but they're kind of annoyed that it keeps going. I don't know, that might be a little bit too morbid for today, but yeah, I thought I'd share that. Convinced the people behind TikTok are conservatives. The people behind TikTok are the Chinese government. So, you know, take it as you will. One of my friends brought up an interesting point about boycotting Hogwarts Mystery. I'm assuming you mean Hogwarts Legacy, but okay. Wouldn't you be hurting the developers more than hurting Rowling? Okay, so I really do not want this stream to become about Hogwarts Legacy. I will address that because it is a common refrain, and there's a couple of problems with that. The first is, if you know anything about development for video games, especially big budget video games, what's called AAA video games, which this very much is, you would know that a successful game is no guarantee of continued employment. We can't know for sure whether or not any of the devs would get any kind of bonus based on sales of the game. It's possible. Sometimes that happens. It is not standard. Actually, almost nothing good is standard within the video game industry because there are barely any unions in it. So the thing is, there is no reason to be sure that this studio, Avalanche Studios, that is the primary developer, will be maintained at the same level with the same amount of support and the same number of employees, even as this game is a huge success. Because whether or not they get closed will have a lot more to do with what the parent company, Warner Brothers Interactive in this case, thinks is best for their bottom line. Being successful is no guarantee. You can look at things like Activision, that in the same year that they announced record-breaking revenue, they laid off 800 people. You could look at just last month in the entire tech sector, not just video games, but like video games, Google, like across the board in the tech sector, massive layoffs this past month. It wasn't because any of the companies were failing. Microsoft laid off thousands, tens of thousands of people, and it wasn't because they lost money. It's because they didn't grow by as much as they had expected to. And so to pad their numbers, they cut a bunch of people because cutting expenses is a way to fake growth. My point is, if your intent is to help the developers, the thing that you should be doing is not blindly buying a game, especially considering you don't know any of those developers. Not to be a prick about it, and if anyone loses their job at that company, I feel very bad for them. I don't think they should lose their job. But again, their loss of their job, if it happens, will be at the whims of Warner Brothers. If you want to help ensure that they can keep work, doing whatever can be done to help push for unionization within the video game space is a much better way to do that. Not to mention the fact that entire line of thinking comes from a perspective that I find deeply troubling, which is that it assumes that there is an obligation to consume. It assumes that by not buying a thing, that you have caused harm. You're not obligated to spend money on anything, or you shouldn't be. Yet we frequently hear it framed that not spending money on a thing would harm somebody. Think about that for a second. You are being talked to and about as if you are obligated to support these devs. Because by that logic, you have closed literally every studio that's ever been closed because you didn't buy every game that was made. Why didn't you support those developers? It's an argument that doesn't track, it doesn't scan in any other possible context. Besides the fact, and this is really important, at least from my perspective, on what the purpose of asking people to not buy that game was. The purpose was not a boycott. I have never used the word boycott in regards to that game. For me, speaking for myself, the purpose of bringing up the negative impact that buying that game and how it supports J.K. Rowling and the damage she is doing was to get people to not ignore it. Some people would choose to ignore it anyway, deny that the connection is there. But if there was anybody who heard what I said and actually thought and grappled with that idea, that was all I ever wanted. I never had any realistic expectation that we were going to starve the Harry Potter franchise, that this game was ever going to be anything other than a monstrous success. It was always going to be. So when we ask, as trans people, that you not buy this game, it's not because we think we will ever get enough people to not buy it that it will put a massive dent in it. That's not the point. The point is, we're asking you in a very straightforward situation where it is very clear who benefits from this purchase and what they are doing with their influence. We are asking you, could you not contribute to this person who's harming us? We are asking you for solidarity. We are asking you to make what is a pretty straightforward and I don't think especially difficult stand to not buy a product. What it tells us is who is prepared to stand with us at the most basic level and who is going to abandon us the instant it inconveniences them in any way, shape, or form. So the devs, the entire theoretical, but if nobody bought the game, the studio would shut down. Yeah, maybe, but that was literally never going to happen. And it was not something I ever called for. So it's actually kind of an irrelevant point. It's an excuse brought up for people who want to justify the thing they already want to do. They want to buy that game, and they want to find the reason why it's okay for them to buy that game. That's assuming that transphobia actually bothers them at all. There's demonstrably millions of people who actually not only don't care, think it's a good thing. But if someone is grappling enough with it that they feel the need to make an argument like that, that to me says that they are grasping at straws to find a reason why they don't have to give up a thing in order to extend a helping hand or a good wish or a show of support for a group of people that may not include them. And I say may because there are plenty of trans people who have said they're going to buy it. And yeah, they're still contributing to transphobia too. And I will note what I have tried to note that has been willfully ignored. I say contributing to transphobia, not are transphobic. Because there is a difference. And it's all very messy, and I don't want to go down that road any further than I have. But there's that. Okay, bunch of super chats came in, so I want to try and catch up on these. So, Super Desi. Thank you very much for the super chat. You sold me with little heart for me. Also, I'll enable your faux habit. Aww. Thank you. They make amazing how flavorful that broth is criminal. It's so good. Thank you, Ollie Tomlinson Music, for the super chat. No comments were made with it. Supreme Omega, thank you very much for that. On your criticisms of Tom King, a lot of it wasn't his fault. It can be laid on Didio, who wanted to horrifically kill Dick and Wally multiple times. Isn't Didio gone? Hasn't he been gone for a while? I could have sworn he was gone. Hold on. Give me a second here. Dan Didio. Yeah, he was out by 2020. And not all of Tom King's stuff was within that time frame, I don't think. Maybe it all was. Time is a disaster, and trying to sort it out is well outside my own personal purview. Sorry, give me 1 second. So, the thing is, the thing that I personally got ticked off at Tom King for is his fault. And that was the Batman Catwoman's getting married thing. And it's not the fact that he almost got them married. It's not even the fact that he chickened out and went, no, I'm not going to do it. It was the fact that he sat down in interviews and said, yes, we're really going to get these characters married because I think that there are stories that are not being told about characters in committed relationships. And he was right, and he was lying because he was never actually going to put them together. I don't appreciate being lied to by creators. I just don't. And nobody made him do that. Now, the main thing that I've heard about Tom King that appears to be in his defense is that when he is working on very small self-contained stuff, he can be quite good. It's when he deals with bigger stuff that it all falls apart. Heroes in Crisis. Ooh, yeah. Dharma, thank you very much for re-upping the membership. 14 months, 6 months, 14 months subscription, 6 months HRT, 0 regrets. Aw, thank you very much. 255 AD, thank you. Every industry created after the 70s has no unions. There's probably some truth to that. I don't know how across the board it is, but yeah. Newer industries deeply lack unionization. John Vinyls, thank you for the super chat. Leaving aside how horrible her bigotry truly is, doesn't You Know Who recognize how she's harming her brand? Like, people still love those books even after all this stuff. If she could shut her mouth, they'd still be beloved. The thing is, though, she looks at her residual checks and she doesn't think she's lost anybody. The read that I have on her is she believes the people who she has lost are just trans people. And the stuff's all still successful. The only thing that's really tanked has been the Fantastic Beasts movies. And even those, it wasn't by the third one that they were truly done. And, you know, it was diminishing returns, but she still sells books. And this game, yeah, no, she doesn't recognize how she's harming her brand. Because in her mind, every single sale of a Harry Potter product is proof, if not that people agree with her, that at the very least they are not turned off by what she's saying. Although she seems to be operating from the position of, if they buy my product, they agree with me. Which is why I pointed out before, even if you think that you can divorce her from that property, and you think that that, not believing what she is saying makes it okay. She thinks you're on her side. She treats your money and your purchase like you're on her side. Jay Gray, thank you very much. Not for a penny, not for a pound. If it weren't already being used for something else, do you think Q would be a good shorthand for the LGBT plus community as a whole? I personally do consider queer to be a blanket identity. It's a good all-purpose. It can refer to everything or to someone who maybe has multiple identities. Like, speaking as someone who's through both gender identity and sexuality is taking up multiple letters on that thing, queer is a nice catch-all. Is that a top or a dress? It's a top. It's a top. It's not a dress. And I'm not wearing pants. Or am I? Did I just try to, be all sort of implying stuff with the notion that I actually was wearing? I screwed that up. I got that backwards. Oh, well. Not queer, simply Q, the letter. Oh. See, I'm a bad person to ask because I don't like just using single letters. I don't like acronyms. I don't like abbreviations, partially because my brain is really bad at keeping track of them. So I wouldn't like it. I like your necklace. Thank you. This was actually given to me by one of my coworkers at the old job before I was doing this full time. I have someone pressuring me to see the last Fantastic Beasts movie despite knowing how I feel about JKR. Why? By most accounts, it wasn't even a good movie. And if they just think you should know what happened, read the Wikipedia entry. I don't get that. I don't believe Vera wears pants on stream. I said what I said. Yeah, you did. Check out Quantum Leap 2022 if you want great representation. I've heard about that, Whitney. I don't know if or when I will get to it, because I am seriously buried and behind a lot of stuff. So, but I did hear that. What's in my mug? It is hot apple cider is what's in there, which is why I'm sipping it. I almost said sicking it. Sipping it as delicately as I am in this particular scenario. I'm excited for Superman Legacy, and I'm willing to give The Flash a shot. On the other hand, I'm not sure about the characters moving into and out of animation, I mean, it depends on what the characters are, I suppose. I don't know if I want to see The Flash. No, I'll backtrack that. I don't want to see The Flash. And it's just a question of whether, to what extent I feel like I can get away with not watching it. Because, I'm so sick of talking about these people. I'm so sick of Ezra Miller. I'm so sick of J.K. Rowling. I'm so sick of Joss Whedon. I'm sick of John Barrowman. I'm sick to death of all of them. Ugh. 255 AD. Thank you very much for the super chat. Would you consider cis-het cross-dressing as part of the queer community? Okay. Boy, that's an old school loaded topic. Speaking as someone who used to identify I never identified as heterosexual, who did identify as cisgender crossdresser for a long time. A long time. My feelings on that are, they kind of default to whether or not the person wants to be identified with that community. It's kind of the first thing. Because I think I wouldn't hazard a guess as to whether or not it's a majority, but I feel comfortable in saying there is a significant percentage of cis hetero crossdressers who, for how they conceive of themselves, would not want to be sort of put in and considered with the rest of the queer community. And I wouldn't feel okay sort of forcing that label on them if it's not one they're comfortable with. So I suppose if we narrow the field and we say, what would my thoughts be on a cis-het crossdresser who did feel that they belonged within the queer community? I guess my next question would be, to what degree? Like, are they attempting to make use of queer support networks? Or do they simply wish to march with queer people at Pride? Like, the former is a little like, the latter is like, yes, please do. It gets weird. Honestly, it feels very case by case to me. I don't feel comfortable making a blanket statement on that. For, I think, a combination of reasons, being one, I don't know how this hypothetical person would identify for themselves in the first place. I mean, if they feel and they are firm in their conviction that they are in fact cis-het, but who just cross-dress, I would imagine they probably would not have much desire to be in queer spaces. And if they did, it would help for me to like sit down and have a conversation with them and be like, okay, why? Because if you are cisgender and you are heterosexual, I'm not going to say you can't be here, but I'm going to be curious as to why you desire to be. And I don't mean that in a gatekeeping way. It's just that if you think you are both of those things, why would you be in queer spaces? And that's a genuine confusion. That's not a leading question. That's not me implying it must be because of this nefarious thing. Like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like, I found myself in queer spaces back when I thought I was cisgender, if only for virtue of the fact that I wasn't straight. So, I always had that to fall back on if my presence was questioned back in the day. But I don't know. I feel like if that person exists, I kind of want to sit down and have a conversation with them and not be operating on a ton of assumptions, which is kind of what I'm stuck with. And granted, that's the nature of a hypothetical, but you get what I mean. You get it. You get it. This guy, this person. I use guy as a very non-gendered term. Hey guys, these guys, this guy over here. I use dude non-gendered too. I'm trying to cut back on both of those. They're pretty ingrained. Okay, let's see. We got some more super chats in here. John Vinyls. What do we got? You can't look at You-Know-Who without thinking about all the authors who were raised in bigoted societies and still work to overcome those prejudices and learn to be better people. I mean, I'm not going to even attempt to parse to what degree the views of someone like She Who Will Not Be Named. I've already named her this stream anyways, but to what degree the various aspects that have contributed to her views is, responsible. To what degree is it societal? To what degree is it a result of trauma, which is something she's talked about? To what degree is it indoctrination by aspects and people in the gender critical subculture that just drew her in and radicalized her? To what degree is it any of this? I don't know. I can't know. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me. That's the kind of stuff that, like, if someone wants to try and create a psychological profile on her, which, don't do that. I've said before, don't do that. Like, I don't understand why those aspects would matter. But, like, as you say, there are plenty of people in plenty of inherently bigoted societies who find ways to overcome that. But that kind of also makes the point that, yes, that does happen, but someone who does that has beaten the odds. Because a society that has a lot of inbuilt prejudices in its makeup, in its fundamental makeup, those are going to be harder to A, be aware of, and B, shake off, and most people won't. And even those who do are probably still going to be dealing with residual BS in their heads for the rest of their lives. I know I am. So, while it is always admirable that certain people are able to break out of the mentalities instilled in them by society, by teachers, by parents, by church, by whatever it may be, while that will always be admirable, we need to remember that just because some people could do it doesn't mean everybody can. I don't want to make it completely analogous to trying to break out of poverty, because it's not quite, but it is that same kind of thing. It's very easy to admire someone who started at the bottom and got to a high point, but you need to remember that they are the exception, and there are built-in problems that are keeping most people from being able to do that. And that is not to bring it back to prejudices, that is not to remove responsibility for those views and the impact of speaking those views out loud from these people. They are absolutely responsible for the things they say and the impact and the result of those things. Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, the reason I say it's important to keep in mind that most people don't beat those odds is because we need to keep our eye on societal change and not only on the individuals, as much harm as some of them are doing. All right, what do we got next? Sorry, I'm not getting to the chat as much. We have more super chats than we've had in a while, which honestly, I really do appreciate. I won't lie, I was nervous coming into this chat today just with how the last week and a half, 2 weeks have been. Carl Watson, any ideas, tips, places to go to get a magic system up and running? I have zero ideas. I feel like I don't have the brains for it. Okay, so I'm assuming we are talking within fiction, within fantasy at this point. Sorry, give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Okay, magic system. I think for me at least, and I've created a couple of magic systems, but largely by dictation of what I wanted to do with the story. Story. I can talk. So the thing with magic systems I find is the first thing, well, let me back up. For me and my way of approaching stories, it always helps to know what is the story you wish to tell overall. And then what magic system will enable you to best tell that story. And the best place to start is, what is it you want magic to be able to do? What do you not want it to be able to do? So what I mean by that, when I was creating the magic systems for Dreams of Fire, it was, especially for the elementals, it was incredibly limited, and that was by necessity, because I wanted the impact and the effects of it to be very narrow, because I wanted the people who had it to have very little control over it. And if it was wild magic that could do anything, like it could transform a tree into a horse, or it could bring rain clouds, or it could turn day into night, or whatever, the fact that they didn't have control over it just basically meant I might as well roll a 100-sided die at the start of every chapter for whatever random thing's going to happen. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I didn't want to. So I narrowed that magic system very deliberately because I knew at its core I did not want people to have good control over it. So figure out, what do you want magic to do and to not do. Start there and see if you can from there work out a system that gives you the restrictions you want while giving you the freedom you need. And I say that as someone who can't just sit down and world build. I can't just sit down and come up with a map and a history and a religion and a magic system for the heck of it. Some people can. I can't. I need to know, what story is this in service of. So for me, and if you write anything like how I write, then that is what I would start with. Figure out the narrative overall. And that doesn't mean you have to outline the thing start to finish, but figure out what the basics and the core of what you want this story to be, and then figure out, okay, within that understanding, what do I want magic to do? What do I want magic to not do? And then work on something to build those constraints. Oh, hey, Meg. It's good to see you. Okay, back to the super chats, because I've got more of those. On a lighter note, and this is from John Vinyls. Thank you so much again. I'm thinking about how funny it is to think that Dana Terrence created the character of Lena Saberwing in DuckTales 2017. Oh, that was hers. I'm going to miss the Owl House when that's done. I'm going to miss that show a lot. Supreme Omega. On Guns DC plan, at least he's mostly drawing from pre-New 52 material. Yes, thank goodness. Because my issue with the recent DC films and TV is that it's mostly adapted to the New 52 stuff. The instant the animated DC stuff started a continuing continuity based off the New 52 was the instant they started being consistently bad. They used to be reliably great. And there were a couple of good ones that came about even after that happened, but most of them were really bad. It's because the New 52 was crap. It was so bad. New 52 was awful. It was terrible. Anyways. 255 AD. Have you started State of the Art yet? I think you'll not like it, or at least it'll frustrate you. That's my feeling anyway. I have not started it yet. I've got a lot of stuff breathing down my neck, including my tax bill for last year. I will get to it as soon as I can. I have not started it yet. Jay, thank you. You're an absolute icon. I love your content. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And 255 AD again. Thank you for that. Weird that I commissioned a story I have issues with. I mean, not really. If you, there are plenty of things I have issues with, but are still interesting to talk about. Honestly, it's, at least for me, it's very difficult to find a way to talk about something that I just think is great across the board. I can get excited about it, but I find it a lot more interesting to talk about something that has a lot of potential but doesn't quite get there. It's why I was able to spend 40 minutes talking about Zack Snyder's Watchmen movie, because I'm fascinated by the fact that it doesn't work. Jack Frederick, member for 10 months. Thank you very much. Hi, Vera. Insert profound question / statement here. My, Jack, that was indeed most profound. Diana Bell, New 52 Batwoman was really good till they effed everything up and the good people quit. That's what happened to most of the stuff that was at any point any good with the New 52, but most of it was garbage, immediately. The New 52 Wonder Woman is part of why I will probably have a lifelong grudge against Brian Azzarello. Because, oh my God, it was so bad. John Vinyl's back again. Would love to hear your favorite season of DuckTales 2017. Also, am I the only person who finds Andreas from Amphibia to be a really great Disney antagonist? He is a good antagonist. I mean, part of that's Keith David, because Keith David's voice. Oh my goodness. Oh, that man's voice. I'm okay. But yeah, Andreas is a well-developed antagonist, and he's intimidating. He works really well. As for my favorite season of DuckTales, I don't know, because I still haven't actually finished it. I've seen the first 3 seasons, I think. And unfortunately, they all bleed together on me. I think I like the second season of the ones I've seen the best. I wouldn't swear by that, though. It's been a little while. It's one of those things that I'll be like, oh, I should get back to that, and I'll watch 2 episodes, and then I won't check it again for a month. What are my thoughts on hate watching? Never made sense to me. Like, if you hate something, why do you give it the time of day? All right. I get hate watching for something that isn't a commitment. So, like, I get hate watching a movie. I get checking out a movie that you think is going to suck to sink 90 minutes to 2.5 hours of your life into it, and just to confirm. Because sometimes there have been things that I've wanted to sound off on, but I'm like, I might be half informed if I don't actually watch the thing. And then I watch the thing and I'm like, boy, I hated that. And now I can properly articulate why. I get hate watching single episodes, a TV show. What I don't get is hate watching a series over a long term. I don't get that. I don't get, the desire to come back over and over and over again to refill on hate. I do get the invigoration of like, I hated that. There can be an invigoration to that. But going back to that, like, for week after week for a show, no, I don't get it. I mean, that said, at least most of the most prolific hate watchers tend to be people who also commentate on it, be it as a hobby or professionally. And so there can be a sense of obligation. Like, I'm not going to say I ever got to the point of hate watching Doctor Who, but the last few series of Doctor Who I have disliked a lot more than I've liked. And I didn't love that fact, but I kept watching it because it's my job. The plot is going to be Basil opening a new hotel, and the daughters he's only just discovered he has, played by Cleese's own daughter, Camilla. Oh, so Cleese is coming back for this. So this isn't a reboot. This is a continuation after a long gap. This is like the Night Court thing. Okay, that makes slightly more sense. Slightly. At least more so than a flat-out reboot. What's my opinion on Blobby the Blobfish? I have no idea what that is. Anytime I hear Keith David, I immediately think of Goliath from Gargoyles. I mean, that's where I discovered him, so I get that. Am I going to catch The Address? I don't know what that is either. Black Cover, you are just coming at me with stuff that I'm like, I don't know what that is. What are my top 10 favorite top 10 pieces of media and why? Oh, good grief. That would eat up the rest of the stream. I'm not. How long should I expect to wait for you to get to state of the art? I waited like 2 years for Accession, and then I got surface detail in a few months. It will not be 2 years. I would like to have state of the art done before we get into the summer. I do not have a firm time commitment. I am behind on a lot, including other people's commissions. Part of the reason that I was able to do surface detail in a much shorter time frame was because I could get the audiobook, and I couldn't with Accession. So you got to keep this stuff in mind. I'm doing my best. Is there a movie or TV show where the more you think about it, the more you hate it? Oh, probably, but I kind of don't want to be in that space right now. Oh, the State of the Union. Oh, God, no, I'm not watching that. I never watch that, no matter who it is. I don't give a shit what these people have to say as they get up and mutter their way through something to either appease or tick off a bunch of people who should have been out of that job decades ago. No. Well, I never have and never will watch a State of the Union. You'd have to pay me. John Vinyls. Actually, DuckTales 2017 only had 3 seasons. Okay, then I guess I'm at the start of the 3rd season. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. As I said, it's very sporadic, my getting to it. 255 AD, that's fine. Thank you for understanding. Okay. So I do have to, as Carolyn pointed out, I do have to address the Discord. I will be back in just a couple of minutes. And a reminder that the Council of Geeks Discord is a Patreon exclusive perk. At the $2 and up tier gets you access to the Discord. So consider supporting me on Patreon if you don't already. And there are links in the description. As much as YouTube does help and the super chats, again, for everybody who's done that, the regular payouts from Patreon are the biggest thing that keeps my head above water. Not the only thing, and I need all the other stuff too, but it's the biggest part. All right, you have unlimited capital to start your own retro video game developer / publishing house. What kind of games would you want to have made and why? See, the first thing that comes to my head is something that just, oh God. I've been playing a game that's in early access right now called Scarlet Maiden. If you are under 18, do not look it up. Sorry, give me 1 second. So I've been enjoying that a lot, and it is a spicy game. And what I like about it is a very well-designed game where the spiciness is constant, but not actually interrupting the gameplay drastically. So that has been, I've been enjoying that a lot. But like, I don't know, because I'm not a game designer, ultimately. So I know what kind of stuff I gravitate to playing, but like there's lots of other people, already making that stuff. I know because I'm playing it. Sorry, there's something on my screen. What the hell is that? The hell? Weird. So I don't know. I think I would be a very bad person to dictate the creative direction, I think. So unfortunately, that's one of those questions that it's a really interesting question, but I'm a very boring person to answer it. Hope you're doing all right. Let's keep it light with a question. Favorite planet or other celestial object? Honestly, I'll go classic. I like the moon. I think the moon is awesome. In the spirit of the above, waffles, pancakes, or crumpets? None of the above. Sorry. Waffles and pancakes they're too sweet for my taste. Crumpets, I think I've had a crumpet once and I don't remember what it was like. So I would rather get a bagel or an English muffin. Favorite comfort read? Restaurant at the End of the Universe, or possibly Life, the Universe, and Everything. Ideally done with the audiobook read by Douglas Adams, because he did it best. Who does the better American accent? Andrew Garfield, Charlie Cox, or Robert Pattinson? I'd say Garfield's got it down pretty well. So that will actually take care of the Discord questions. Normally, folks get 3. I did request because I'm a little drained and I wasn't sure the direction this particular stream was going to go. So I did ask people to only submit 1 this time. So that's why it was shorter. 255 AD. Thank you for the super chat with no comment, and thank you again for the other one. Sorry for misreading. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Charlie Cox does a great job. Yeah, Charlie Cox does pretty well. Robert Pattinson, I don't think does especially great, but it's fine. I don't find him distracting. Spicy game and a spicy website. Yeah, a little bit. Wait, do you do adult media reviews on your other spicy platform? It's funny you should ask that. At present, no, but because I'm really enjoying that game, and I've finished the early access version. Well, almost. But to fully explain everything that I love about it would require footage, and I couldn't show footage on any of the channels I've got on YouTube. So what I'm considering doing is doing a review of it that would be just me talking about it and put that on the Vera Wild channel, but have a version of that same review featuring actual gameplay footage, have that go up on the Spicy site. You know the one that's it's meant mostly for fans, mostly. Maybe it's only. I don't know, I can never remember. That one. I am thinking about doing that. We'll see. At the risk of ruining your mood, have you any words for Andrew Tate? No. I have no desire to expend any words to or towards or at or in regards to. He is beneath consideration. Sounds like a Patreon exclusive. Are savory pancakes a thing in the US? Not really. You know what we do have in Vermont that I really like? We have a chain restaurant called the Skinny Pancake, which is a crepe restaurant. Sorry, crepe restaurant. And they do savory crepes. And they're really good. Like, the sweet ones are nice too, but the savory ones are so good. So good. Which X-Men would I be and why? See, I go back and forth between Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler because they're freaking awesome. Now that's going with like people who are consistently members of the X-Men. An occasional ally of the X-Men, which would be the ultimate go-to if we're just encompassing all mutants, is Mystique, because find me a gender fluid person who doesn't want shape-shifting abilities, and I'll be very surprised. What's my favorite Pokemon as well as Pokemon generation or game? I have only ever played a couple of hours of Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Go. So I don't feel comfortable having an opinion on that. Not a question, just wanted to say I'm very happy about the fact that you're not going anywhere. Emotional nod commences. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. Have you heard of Hokuto no Ken, Fist of the North Star? I have heard of it. I have not seen it or read it, but I have heard of it. Am I going to watch Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur? I'm not expecting to. I'm glad that it exists, and it looks nifty, but it also doesn't have a super amount of appeal to me. Just doesn't. So, isn't every trans person slowly becoming Magneto now? Philosophically, possibly. Give it some time and enough Enough things going south, maybe. I would be Magic and Mystique. Oh, interesting picks. Magic, but not the movie version. Oh, no. Carolyn, we don't count her at all. So, Mystique is mother and daddy. It would be terrible, and it would be an awful idea, but part of me, when Marvel inevitably gets around to starting to do the X-Men, and we get some version of Mystique, there's part of me that would just love seeing where she looks, more or less like herself. Call me mommy shifts to look masculine, or call me daddy. Like, they shouldn't actually do that. They should not actually do that. That's just a thing in my head that I'm like, I kind of want to see it. I kind of want it to exist, even though it shouldn't. Not in official media, at any rate. Oh, I could commission somebody to make that for me. Oh, to have disposable income. Ha ha! How far into Pokemon Yellow did you get? I don't remember. This was over 20 years ago. I do not remember. So I looked Scarlet Maiden up. That is a lot. Yeah, it is. But it's a shockingly competent game. I actually legitimately enjoy it as a game. Because at this point, most of the novelty of its presentation has worn off a little bit. And I'm still playing it because it's actually just fun as a game. This might cheer you up. As of the book I'm reading, it turns out that both your favorite doctors, number 12 and number 7, punch racists. Yes! It is always justified to punch a Nazi. So, I remember, I think it was on TikTok, seeing a comparison between a liberal and a leftist. A liberal says, "Oh, you shouldn't punch a Nazi because then are you really any better than they are?" And a leftist says, "Hey, you know what? If you break a Nazi's arm, that's one fewer arms they have to do Nazi stuff with." So, is MCU Killmonger a Magneto? He's got Magneto aspects. And the thing is, I don't know enough about Killmonger from the comics to know how much they retooled him. But Meg, thank you for the super chat. And very fittingly, 666, love it. Do you have a favorite version of the character and or story of Dracula? I'm honestly, I know it's dated, but I'm kind of a sucker for Bela Lugosi. He had a presence that puts a stamp on the character in a way that basically every other interpretation of the character since has either had to very severely lean into what he did or run as far away from possible from what he did. Very few actors have been able to simply exist in the part the way Bela Lugosi did, with just a presence. And it is cheesy, flatly, it is cheesy that they have the camera just going tight on his eyes and he's just staring at someone, and it's supposed to convey that he's hypnotizing someone. But the man had a presence and an energy in his eyes, for my Doctor Who fans out there, similar to how Roger Delgado was able to sell as the Master, just looking at somebody and overtaking their will. Bela Lugosi could do that. And especially in compared to most of the interpretations of Dracula that have come since, he's very low-key. He is menacing. He is threatening, but he's not a show-off. He doesn't have to be. I think part of the reason I like his Dracula is Part of the same reason I prefer the version of Smaug the Dragon from the Rankin Bass animated version of The Hobbit to Benedict Cumberbatch version from the movies. Because the Cumberbatch version was very all of his lines, very snarly. Where are you, thief? I smell you. You know, he was trying to be scary. What I love about the Smaug in the animated Rankin Bass version is he doesn't have to try. He just is. He's almost disaffected when Bilbo shows up. Well, thief, I smell you, feel your air. I can hear your breath. He's not bothered. He doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to act scary. He just is scary. And I feel similarly to Lugosi's Dracula. He doesn't have to act menacing or intimidating. He doesn't have to do this extra work. He just is. And I love that. Hype. Yes, Carolyn, I will get to that in just a moment. I've got one more super chat to hit. Supremo Mega. I love rolling the R on that one. It's so much fun. Comic question. If it weren't for the Comics Code, do you feel comics would be popular besides just superheroes with different genres and have a wider readership? Possibly. So, here's the thing. The thing to remember is the Comics Code didn't kill off every non-superhero genre. It killed off horror, and it killed it hard. That probably would have stayed popular, but most of the other genres that fell off on their own, not because of the Comics Code, but just because there wasn't that much sustained interest in them. Western comics, a lot of space adventure comics, romance comics, they fell off not because they were dictated out of existence by the Comics Code the way the horror comics specifically were, but just because they couldn't compete. People weren't as interested in them, and that was just the nature of the world at that time. So horror comics definitely would have stuck around at the time, but they might have still died off the same as some of these others did. It's impossible to say. Oh, and somebody sneaking in another super chat, John Vinyls. Thank you. Thank you very much. Speaking of Lugosi, I love to imagine alternate worlds where the Owl House and Amphibia were based on old books with several previous adaptations. Oh, that is interesting. Huh. Nifty. I especially love the animated Smaug's Revenge. You! Ha! Oh, God, it's so good. That's the thing. He doesn't raise his voice until he feels a little bit insulted or when he realizes he's been stolen from. That's when he's mad. Not just because somebody's in his lair. He's like, he couldn't give a crap. Cumberbatch's Smaug was Benedict imitating the way his father voiced Smaug when reading the story to baby Benedict. And I can appreciate that. And no shade to Cumberbatch's dad, but, it's not as good. I'm sorry, it's not. So can we assume Dwight Fryer is your favorite Renfield then, or is Tom Waits just too strong? It's Tom Waits, Rowan. Tom Waits is Renfield. Mwah. Oh, he's real good. I like Tom Waits pretty much anytime he's on screen. He has a very commanding presence for a guy who only acts on occasion. But, okay, let's wrap it up for the day. So, stuff coming up. Tomorrow, I will be streaming on Twitch. I'll be playing some Hades just to unwind, because the last couple of 2D platformy games have ticked me off. And I'm going to take a break from the genre, actually. And we're going to do a bit of Hades. It is going to be a slightly late start. It'll be at 11 instead of 10:30 because I have some stuff going on in the morning that I need to deal with. Tomorrow we'll also see the premiere of the latest Take-Two Doctor Who review. That will be the one on Ascension of the Cybermen. It would have been out last week, but it got bumped. So that will be going on. And then... well, there is already a review up right now for the latest episode of The Owl House, Fight the Future. That is up in the break room of Geeks. And that is what is on the immediate horizon. Friday, I will be on Twitch again. If I haven't found something else to play, maybe more Hades, I don't know. I'll figure that out. But that is everything coming up. If you did used to follow me on TikTok and are aware that my last account, my second account, got falsely reported for a bunch of stuff and is now gone, you can now find Vera Wild 1 altogether, the numeral 1 at the end. That is the new account. If you want to follow me on Twitch, not Twitch, on TikTok, probably will be a bit of a drip feed on that because I don't feel like diving back into it right off. Vera, please slow down your speech. Sorry, Meg. I speed through and I ramble when I feel like I'm running out of time. So apologies. Gamer Jamie, you snuck in with super chat at the very end. Speaking of Owl House, do you have a favorite episode? I'm still really partial to Grom. I just am. But anyways, thank you, everybody, for your time, your generosity, your kindness, and your ears. That's a weird way to put it. Thank you for your ears. Whatever. I'm done. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. And please remember that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. McCavity!